Hello and welcome. So you own a rental property back in Turkey, but you're living somewhere else in the world. And you're probably wondering, what do I do about taxes? Well, today we're going to cut right through all that complexity. We're breaking down the official government guidebook so you know exactly what you need to do. Yep, if you're earning rental income from a property in Turkey while living abroad, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to walk through all the key rules for the 2024 tax year, pulling everything straight from the official guide to give you total clarity. Okay, first things first. These rules are specifically for what the government calls non-resident taxpayers. So let's figure out what that actually means and see if this whole thing applies to you. So here's the deal. You're considered a non-resident if you're not officially settled in Turkey or if you spend less than 6 months there in a row during a calendar year. And this is a really important point. It's not just about your citizenship. It also applies to Turkish nationals who have a work or residence permit abroad. If that sounds like you, then yep, these rules are for you.
All right, so you've confirmed you're a non-resident. The next big question is, what exactly counts as taxable rental income? Because, it's not always as simple as the cash that hits your bank account.
The definition of rental income is actually a bit broader than you might think. Of course, it includes cash, whether it's in Turkish lira or any foreign currency. But it also covers what's called in-kind payments. For example, if your tenant does a bunch of repairs instead of paying rent, that counts. Timing is also key. If you collect rent in 2024 for, say, a year ago, it counts as 2024 income. But if someone pays you in advance for future years, you only declare that income in the year it's actually for. That's a nice little rule that keeps you from being taxed too early.
And now for the part you've probably been waiting for. Just because you have rental income doesn't automatically mean you owe taxes or even have to file a return. There's a really important exemption for residential properties that you need to know about.
That's right. For residential rentals, the government gives you a tax-free threshold. It's a set amount of income you can earn before you even need to think about filing. For the 2024 tax year, this is the number you need to burn into your memory. 33,000 Turkish lira. That is the official exemption amount for residential rental income. And the rule here is super simple and clear. If your total gross rental income from a residential property for the entire year was 33,000 TL or less, congratulations, you are not required to file a tax return for that income. But, and this is a big but, there's a critical catch. The official guide is very clear on this. To get the benefit of this exemption, you must declare your income accurately and on time if you're over that threshold. If you're late or you underreport your income, you lose the right to claim that 33,000 TL deduction completely. So being on time is everything. Okay, so what happens if your income is above the 33,000 lira mark? Well, your next step is to figure out your final taxable income by deducting your expenses. So let's see how that works. The whole goal here is to legally reduce the amount of income you pay tax on, right? The good news is, the Turkish tax system gives you two very different ways to do this. So you've got two paths to choose from. First up is the actual expenses method. This is for you if you've got significant costs you can prove with paperwork, things like loan interest, insurance, or big repairs. But you have to keep every single document for 5 years. The other option is the lump sum method. This one is incredibly simple. You just deduct a flat 15% of your income after you've applied the exemption. No receipts, no documents, no fuss. But here's the crucial trade-off. That simplicity of the lump sum method comes with a condition. Once you pick it, you're locked in. You cannot switch back to deducting your actual expenses for at least 2 years. So you really have to think ahead about any major cost that might be coming up down the line. All right, theory is great, but let's make this real. Let's meet Alex. He lives in Germany, so he's a non-resident, and in 2024, he earned 420,000 TL from his apartment in Ankara. He decides to go with the simple lump sum method. Let's break down the math together. Alex starts with his gross income, 420,000 TL. First step, he subtracts that 33,000 TL exemption. That brings him down to 387,000. Now, he applies the 15% lump sum deduction to that new balance, which comes out to 58,050 TL. He subtracts that and there it is. Alex's final taxable income is 328,950 TL. That's the number his tax will actually be calculated on. So you've figured out what you owe. Now for the final piece of the puzzle. How do you actually file your return and pay the tax from abroad? Your best friend in this process is going to be the Hazir Bayan Sistemi, which translates to the pre-filled tax return system. It's an online platform that's designed to make this as painless as possible, and it even pre-populates some of your information for you.
Okay, you'll want to get these dates in your calendar because they are non-negotiable. For your 2024 income, you have to file your declaration sometime between March 1st and April 2nd of 2025. Your first payment is also due by that April 2nd deadline. The second and final installment is then due by July 31st.
And when it's time to actually pay, you've got plenty of options. You can do it online through the official Revenue Administration website, use a contracted bank's online services, pop into any PTT, that's the post office, or of course go directly to a tax office, if you happen to be in the country.
If you still have questions after all this, the tax authority provides official support. That Azerbaijan website is your #1 resource. For specific questions in English, you can actually use the email address you see right here. And for Turkish speakers, the VMER Tax Communication Center is available on the helpline 189.
And that's our walkthrough. We've covered who needs to file, what counts as income, how to calculate what you owe, and finally, how to pay your taxes. So the last question is really for you. It's a strategic one. Which path will you choose? Will it be the detailed record keeping of the actual expenses method, hoping for a bigger saving? Or will you go for the simple, no-fuss, lump sum approach for pure convenience? The right choice really depends on your specific situation. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.